Namaskar, this is Ratna. You are watching Empire Diaries, our independent digital platform. Jamaica is all set to punish the Queen of England for the fortunes made by the monarchy as slave traders. The Caribbean country's government will petition the Queen for billions of pounds of compensation for the kingdom's brutal history. The royal family will be made to pay up billions of slavery reparations to Jamaica. Jamaica was a British colony for 255 years. The country gained independence from the UK in 1962, but the Queen remains the head of state. Not just in Jamaica, Britain's dark role in the slave trade is well documented in history. The dark past goes back to 1562. At that time, British interests lay with African resources rather than with the slave trade. From 1553 to 1660, numerous charters were granted to British merchants to establish settlements on Africa's west coast to plunder goods such as ivory, gold, pepper, and indigo. Portugal and Britain were the two most profitable slave trading destinations, accounting for 70% of Africans sold in the Americas. Britain illegally transported 3.1 million Africans to the British colonies in the Caribbean, North and South America, and other countries. The atrocious slave trade was carried out from the British ports. The three most important ports were London, Bristol, and Liverpool, which turned extremely wealthy. While Jamaicans are in reality, Indians are not. Most Indians still feel grateful, thinking their British rulers gifted them the railways. Well, why did they build the railways? They used the railways to siphon off $45 trillion worth of wealth from India at that time. Take the case of Winston Churchill, for instance. Churchill was openly a racist. He once said, "I hate people with the slit eyes and pigtails. I don't like the look of them or the smell of them." He once described M.K. Gandhi as a seditious lawyer, a half-naked fakir, and a malignant subversive fanatic. British society is so evolved that this openly racist man was widely respected and accepted as Sir Winston Churchill. He even managed to grab a Nobel for literature. Now let's come to the latest display of English culture after the Euro final at Wembley. Now imagine a football match between India and England just got over at the Salt Lake Stadium in Kolkata. Imagine India is defeated 0-5. Now the angry Indian fans are waiting at the exit gate of the stadium. As soon as the unsuspecting English fans walk out, the Indian fans surround them and smash them into pulp. They ferociously kick them in the chest, slap their children, destroy their belongings, and throw them to the ground. If that really happens, imagine how the Western world would react. India as a country will be crucified by the public, the media, the governments for the racism of its football fans. Probably Britain, US, France, Germany, Canada, they will all come together and issue a statement condemning racism. The Pope may join in. The United Nations may have joined in too. It will ask FIFA to consider banning India from international football. But of course, all this didn't happen and perhaps never will. Here we are talking about what actually happened last Sunday, the night Italy defeated England in the Euro 2020 final. In fact, it's not a case of one-off shameless and unruly English behavior. It's very common at football games involving England. The script is almost identical all the time. So don't make the mistake of thinking that it's only a sports-related problem. It's not. It's the other way around. The football rioting is a classical cultural trait of the British. Britain's football hooliganism is a reflection of the larger and centuries-old cultural background. There was a time when the British colonized the world. Well, That is exactly how they ran the world at that time, bullying and terrorizing the colonized people. Wembley is a micro example of the macro British Empire from the past, an extension of British culture. If you want to test of how civilized British Empire was, just go to a football game where England loses the match. You will see for yourself. Strangely, the reactions to football hooliganism differs from one society to another. If the culprits are fans from Iran, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh or China, the world would explode in anger. These countries will be boycotted probably. Sanctions will be slapped. Probably foreign aid will be halted, diplomatic relations will be cut off. But the intensity of the global outrage is much less when English fans commit these crimes. It is almost not a surprise that England's own footballers, their black players who missed the penalties at Wembley, have been targeted by the white supporters. Former England footballer Gary Neville was spot on when he said British society is bubbling with racism. After Sunday's match, Neville said, "When we get racist abuse after a football match, I expect it. Because racism exists and it's actually promoted by the Prime Minister. As soon as Rashford, Sancho and Saka missed the penalties last night, I knew we would be waking up this morning to stories of racist abuse." Now, here is even more shocking story. During the 2018 Football World Cup, England's National Centre for Domestic Violence launched a campaign when England's matches were in progress. The national watchdog saw a sharp rise in domestic violence cases. So this calculated helpline numbers among women across the UK. If England gets beaten, so does she. This was a campaign message of National Centre for Domestic Violence in support of English women. They released a shocking study in which they said, not everyone is looking forward to the match tonight. Instances of domestic abuse increased 26% when England plays and 38% when it loses. The whole point of bringing this up is to understand where England stands as a country on the culture scale. The reality is, countries like India and Bangladesh should actually teach them how to be civilized, how to conduct themselves sportingly in the public sphere. It is amazing how the British used to take pride in their role of civilizing the world. The Indians, the Africans, the South Americans, a role that nobody gave them. They didn't earn that role. In the name of civilizing societies such as India, they only looted and tortured. But they like to call themselves part of the first world, the so-called most civilized world. With the stolen $45 trillion from India, Britain built its so-called civilized society. It did the same thing with many other countries. It claimed it wanted to civilize them, but it looted them and ran away with the money. It's not rocket science to figure out who needs to be civilized first. For more such reports and special analytical stories, you can log on to our website empirediaries.com. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.